For the longest time, whenever someone would ask me, hey, do you like Sonic the Hedgehog? I would simply answer, no, I'm neurotypical. I wasn't exactly Sonic's biggest fan. I never played any of the games as a kid, nor did I really care to. And by the time I got really into games in my teens, to the point where I wanted to try out everything anyone has ever given a shit about, Sonic was at his dark age. More than that, he had become the internet's punching bag, and I do like punching shit. So obviously, me, as an enlightened scholar who couldn't simply pass up the opportunity to beat a dead horse, or who would lose sleep over shit talking a game series I never even played, devised a perfect plan. I played Sonic 06. Now I could go on about how crap Sonic was because I had actually played a game that featured him. Around that time, people on the internet started saying that the Sonic Adventure games, which I had always heard were some of the good ones, were actually just as bad as 06. I remember seeing a clip from around that time in which Sonic was clipping through the floor and falling to his death, which is the most Sonic 06 thing I can imagine. Surely it couldn't be that bad, right? So I got myself Sonic Adventure DX on the GameCube, booted it up, and got to the first level, and surely enough, I fell through the floor. That's it, I thought. Sonic fans are fucking retarded. Aaron Hansen was right about everything. Fuck Sonic. Satisfied that I had a new opinion to parrot, and with real first-hand experience to boot, I locked Sonic away in my little things I don't like box inside my head. Then with cringe culture, I started associating Sonic with the likes of Sonichu and food fetishists. And so it was for most of my adult life. Sonic was hot garbage. Sonic was never good. The only reason for liking Sonic is nostalgia or some sort of birth defect or something. Despite my distaste and prejudice towards the series, I often found myself drawn to watching Sonic-related content on YouTube. For some reason I found it comforting. I guess I was attracted to the early 2000s aesthetics of the adventure games specifically. You know, the tropical settings, carefree attitude. It reminded me of childhood, and so I mostly kept in touch with the narrative surrounding those games. In the following years, my prejudice began to erode little by little. If anyone can be credited for making me give Sonic a second chance, it's Cybershell. I first came to this channel when he made a video about Tails Gets Trolled, which I had been a fan of for a while at that point. I eventually watched a video of his in which he shows that in many ways Sonic Adventure DX is a piece of shit port. They gutted the original Dreamcast version and is largely responsible for the negative reputation that the game developed. That would explain a lot, I thought. That was the first step. The second one was realizing that Sonic Adventure was released in 1998 in Japan. 1998! In fact, Sonic Adventure was released a mere month after Ocarina of Time. I had always held in my mind that it had been released around 2000. Even having not played it for any extended period of time, I could tell how seriously impressive that was. It dawned on me that by the time of its release, Sonic Adventure was easily one of, if not the most technically and graphically impressive game ever made. Ocarina of Time was highly praised for its visuals a mere month before, and just at a glance anyone could tell Sonic Adventure blew it out of the water. Granted, it was on more powerful hardware, but still this sort of broke the idea that I had that Sonic Adventure was some sort of hack job cash grab, thrown together haphazardly with little care and released to prey on the autism bugs of tasteless children and men children alike. This little realization of the historic context of the game's release completely changed my perception of it. Having had my beliefs shaken, I now had to ask the more important questions. Is Sonic Adventure well designed? Is Sonic Adventure interesting? Is Sonic Adventure fun? Only one way to find out. It took me a while, but I was ready to give Sonic Adventure a chance. I wasn't about to make the same mistake again and play DX, but I also didn't have a Dreamcast. Thankfully, Sonic Artists had my back. A full overhauled Dreamcast restoration mod for the Steam version of SADX exists, and it's pretty impressive. These people are seriously dedicated. It's like Sonic fans really want to make it as easy as possible for people to experience this game in the best way possible. I went in determined to get this to work, and expected it to be at least mildly annoying, but I was pleasantly surprised to find out how easy it was. A single download link containing a very well designed and user-friendly mod manager and pre-arranged mod pack. I started to really feel the love people have for this game. Honestly lowered my guard a little bit. I'm pretty autistic when it comes to organizing my PC game library. I'm making sure I have the best version of everything, so I'm used to digging through mods and dealing with crappy ports, shitty emulators, and poopy mod managers. The SA mod manager just works, and so that helped me to go in with a positive attitude. Sonic Adventure features 6 characters, each with their story. First you can only play as Sonic, but you'll unlock the other characters gradually as you go through the game. Sonic's story is by far the longest. The way this video is going to work is, I'll be very thorough with Sonic. I'll talk about every level in detail, as well as the adventure field parts. I'll comment on the story as it comes up chronologically. It'll be like a tour of the game, and I will be a shitty guide who knows nothing about Sonic. When we get to Sonic's dumb sidekicks, we'll speed up. I'll talk briefly about how they control and what their gimmicks are, give a brief overview of the levels and the story, and my overall thoughts on the campaign as a whole. By the way, I'll be using the terms story, adventure, and campaign interchangeably throughout this video because I really don't know how else to call these. I don't even think saying campaign makes much sense, but that's what I call them for some reason. Please let me know how stupid I am in the comments. So with all that said, let's actually play the game. Sonic Adventure starts with a shitty boss fight. This is going to become sort of a recurring theme. Boss fights are not great in this game. In fact, they're really bad. I can kind of forgive it here considering this is literally the first bit of gameplay in the entire game. I guess Sonic Team wanted to start the game off with a bang, but they couldn't really make the first instance of gameplay particularly hard. Add to that the fact this is 1998 and many people were still not particularly comfortable with controlling characters in 3D spaces. And you get a boss fight that is, for today's standards, a joke for anyone who's not 5. You basically have to spam the homing attack. Hit the water monster thing 3 times and it's over. Hardly takes over 30 seconds. Is there anything positive I can say about this boss fight? I feel like this might become a recurring theme, but the visuals are really impressive. The transparencies and the raindrops look really good. If I had to guess the reason for the inclusion of this fight in terms of game design, it says probably to teach the player about the homing attack. I guess it does it well enough. So I don't like it, but I guess it's tolerable. Definitely one of the more inoffensive boss fights in the game. I'd rather have an easy and short nothing burger of a fight than some annoying slog that takes forever. Anyway, for now we're dropped in a beach area with not a lot of choice but to get right into the first stage, which is Emerald Coast. So let's get this out of the way. The fall through the floor glitch that ended my playthrough years ago seems to be an SADX exclusive, and is fixed in this Dreamcast restoration project. There is still some jank, but it's forgiven considering it only cost me a life once. Mostly the loop-de-loops are very prone to fucking up. I feel like there is almost a choice when you design a game like this between limiting player freedom and ensuring the game is always working as intended. I'm glad they went with the player freedom here, and the jankiness doesn't quite get as bad as I expected. A big problem with Sonic's gameplay specifically is that it's very hard to tell what direction the game expects you to hold when you're running on walls or ceilings or any uneven surface. You eventually get a feeling for it, but for a first time player it's a bit annoying. This level is quite open and I like that a lot. It's broken up between more on-rails sections where you get boost pads and ramps and get to see Sonic go fast and do cool shit, and more vertical, slower sections where you can take a break and explore for optional items. This works quite well. The problem with the high-speed set pieces is that the game can feel like it's on autopilot, so you have to use them sparingly. Breaking those up with parts that require more deliberate play to go through fast while at the same time serving as a break for more casual players is quite an elegant solution. Sonic has a spin dash move that lets him charge up for a burst of speed, and I've seen people sequence breaking in this level using it, but I honestly suck and can't really do anything cool with it. It's still fun to mess around with. Handling Sonic is very different from handling pretty much every other platformer character. His movements are momentum based and it shows. This allows for some interesting gameplay, but also kind of throws you off if you're not used to it. I guess this might be a reason as to why so many people who didn't grow up as Sonic can't get into the games. I say that, but I'm pretty sure Sonic's physics change radically in later games, so I guess we'll see. Overall, level 1 is pretty good actually. The set pieces are really impressive for the time, it looks great, and again, I love the turn of the Millennium Tropical aesthetics. I know kid me would have played the shit out of this had I owned this game back then. Maybe we were all one copy of Sonic Adventure away from neurodivergence. Who can tell? With that over, we get to Station Square. This is an overworld. It's kinda cool. I'm a bit of a sucker for this type of shit. I love the castle in Mario 64, for example. There isn't a lot to do here, it's mostly a matter of wandering around until you stumble upon your next objective, or just jumping into the hint light and getting it spelled out for you. I do think it adds to immersion though. It makes the world seem like more of a living place. I just wish the adventure fields, as they're called, were built more around the character's abilities, so you could practice or just fuck around really. I guess the more open Mystic Ruins area is a bit more like that, but the city area is really limited. We're still a bit far from that, but the final area of Speed Highway comes to mind. I wish Station Square was more like that. So, Sonic's friend Tails has a Chaos Emerald, and he wants to shove it into his plane engine, which sounds great. Chaos Emeralds are like mystical MacGuffins with poorly explained powers from what I gathered. I haven't played the older games at this point, but I don't really see how it could be much more complicated than that. At this point we have to take the train to the Mystic Ruins, which is another hub area. It's larger and more open than the city, but it really has nothing in it. Here we have a second boss fight, and it's pretty bad. Eggman shows up with a big dumb flying ship and tries to crash into Sonic. You basically dodge missiles by walking around and wait for this dumbass to shove his ship into the ground so Sonic can jump on it. Check it 3 times and it has a surprise. The surprise is that the boss fight is over. It wasn't very good, but there will be much worse. In a classic case of win the game, lose the cutscene, Eggman takes the emerald anyway. But not before monologuing about his plans of getting all the emeralds and using them to power up the water dude from the beginning of the game to rule the world or something. Now that that's over with, if we keep going to Tails' house we'll see a green stone thingy. We're supposed to take it to some cave to open up the path to the next action stage. I don't really know how the game expects you to know you're supposed to do this, and I do remember getting stuck here for a little bit my first time through, but I kind of like it. What's the point of having a big world if you're just gonna railroad your player into whatever specific objectives you want them to go to? Let me get lost a little, it helps with immersion, it builds character. Either way, it's not too hard to figure out. That being said, even after going through this with multiple characters across 2 full playthroughs, I still keep missing the entrance to this cave. It has like some bush in front of it. Rewatching my footage, I realized that there's a huge patch of dirt signaling the entrance, as well as an explorer guy. Maybe I'm retarded. Nah, it's probably the game that's retarded. After putting the stone on a pedestal in the cave, Sonic can jump into a gust of wind to be sent to the next level. I am happy to announce I wasted more time aimlessly walking around the open world portion just now looking for the obvious cave entrance than I did on the actual level. This is Windy Valley. I like the setting. It's peaceful and pleasant. That being said, I feel like there's very little actual gameplay in this stage. There are a few short and sweet little platforming sections, but for the most part you're pretty much on rails, with the loop-de-loops, wind paths and the highway-like pathways you go down. Much of this level's already extremely short duration is spent on bursts of speed you get from acceleration pads or the aforementioned wind paths. You get very little input during these sections. I guess what I mean is, Windy Valley looks a lot cooler than it plays. The section inside the tornado is pretty cool conceptually, but it pretty much boils down to hitting a few springs and jump pads. It's over as soon as it starts. And it's like the developers knew just how janky it was, because the wind here keeps you from falling off and dying, which I suppose is better than the alternative. After the tornado part, it's pretty much just a straight shot to the end of the level, with little input required from the player. You run down this flying walkway and that's it. The vertical nature of the level makes me feel like sequence breaking is possible here if you don't suck, but I do. My takeaway from this level is that it's just okay. The wind running gimmick here is entirely useless and takes control away from the player, which I am rarely a fan of. These spectacular set pieces meant to wow me don't really shine as brightly as they must have in 1998. Today they mostly just pad a level that is already pretty poor in terms of content, so that it has even less worthwhile gameplay. It might sound like I hate this level, but I feel like after taking some time to actually think about it and watch some of my footage, I see quite a few strengths. I like the semi-open design and what little platforming there is. as well as the setting and the visuals. I like how dynamic it feels, especially compared to how static most game worlds of this era look. I just feel that the balance between actual gameplay and the "wow, so radical" set pieces that might as well be cutscenes is a little too skewed towards the latter for this one. Well, with that, we're back at the Mystic Ruins area. This hint ball says we should go back to the city. In the station, we can talk to this degenerate gambler mom character who can stop babbling about the casino, which is our next destination. But for that, we need an upgrade, which we can find in the sewers, through an open manhole in the police station area. The Lightspeed shoes give you a somewhat crappy ability that allows Sonic to stop dead in his tracks to store energy and quickly follow a trail of rings. The game never does anything particularly interesting with this. I don't really see how it could. It's another momentum killing technique that involves very little skill and might as well be a context-sensitive prompt. The situations in which you can use the ability are few and far between. It's not like it works for every group of rings in the game. It really doesn't open up much room for player expression. I do like how the game forces you to learn how it works in order to leave the area. It's basic game design but very important. There's this weird old dude you can pick up outside the burger shop. I guess he's supposed to be a mannequin, but he's just a regular civilian model with no animation you can pick up and carry around. I don't really know what use he serves, but I think he's hilarious. I like to think he's just an old dude who's really dedicated to the bit and won't budge no matter what. You can also throw him really far.
Anyway, I'm getting sidetracked.
Immediately after getting the Lightspeed shoes, if you remember a couple of buttons that make a trail of rings appear in the building that leads to the beach, you can go back and get a second upgrade that makes the Lightspeed dash charge faster. Now Sonic needs to get into the casino, and he achieves that by solving a puzzle that consists of pressing a switch and using the Lightspeed dash to butt his head against the sign on top of the main entrance. That being done, Sonic can head into the level. Casinopolis is the most soulful, bad, shitty level in the game. I can't bring myself to hate it even though I think it's pretty bad. I hate using the term soul if I'm trying to be sincere and give an honest assessment of something because it's basically meaningless. It has little more merit than a Chad meme. It basically means I like it but I don't know how to justify it. But to be honest, I think this level kind of warrants it. It's really not that good, but it doesn't give a shit. It's different and weird and does its own thing. One could say it's based. Now that I threw in every buzzword in modern poorly thought out video game discussion and lost all credibility, let's actually try to analyze this level. Now, Casinopolis is the definition of a gimmick level. It diverges dramatically from Sonic's basic gameplay loop. It doesn't expect you to go through a gauntlet of platforming challenges and speedy set pieces to reach the end of a course. Instead, it wants you to play pinball machines to win enough rings to form a huge pile of them so you can climb it for a Chaos Emerald, which is kind of funny honestly. The pinball itself I'm not a fan of. Not only here, I just don't care for pinball in general. And on top of that, I think the pinball here is pretty shitty. The tables are just not that interesting and the physics are off. I did think it was pretty cool when the Knights table gave me a tour of a scene that looked exactly like the Saturn game, which I never played by the way. What I actually like about this level is the attention to detail. I like the bathroom area where you can interact with the showers, I like the decorations, I like the music, the whole thing just sells the casino atmosphere really well. I don't actually know how it works, but sometimes when you exit a pinball machine you end up in a sewer area where you can collect more rings. This is the least visually interesting part of the stage, but is where most of the actual Sonic gameplay takes place. The thing about the sewer area is that there are things that can damage you here, and since Sonic will lose most of his rings when he gets hit, you must actually be careful around enemies and obstacles for once. If you make it to the end of the area, you will end up in a bathroom somehow. There isn't much of an explanation. You just show up there. I guess there's this grated hole next to the place Sonic spawns in, but there's no animation or anything. It's a bit weird. Anyway, you need 400 rings to reach the Emerald. This was by far the level that took me the longest in Sonic's story, but I like it. It's just kind of laid back. The music is awesome and so is the atmosphere. The level tried to do something different and stuck to it, and I can respect that. The moment-to-moment gameplay in Casinopolis is really not very good, but I think the level serves a greater purpose in the context of the game, and does it quite well. I think having levels like this that don't really try to fit in is something that helps a game feel less gamey. helps with immersion. It makes the world feel alive by showing you that it's not just a collection of conveniently designed platforming levels. I think Sonic Adventure greatly benefits from design decisions like this one. This is the sort of thing that helps capture the imagination of players. Back to the timeless epic that is the story of Sonic Adventure, Eggman shows up and lets out some gas in Sonic and Tails' faces and steals the emerald they're carrying. They wake up a little later, and now we need to find another key to open the level. It's in a back alley near the casino. First time around, it took me a while to find it. You can also talk to the degenerate gambler mom here again. I think she's funny. I like her. When Sonic gets back to the Mystic Ruins area, a cave conveniently blows open. Gee, I wonder if this is where I have to go now. Surprise, it is. Inside the cave, there's an ice door which opens with a stone. Past that is the entrance to stage 4. Icecap is divided in 2 parts. The first is a pretty bad platforming section inside a somewhat cramped ice cave featuring stalactites you have to hug and slowly grapple across. Needless to say, that's not very complimentary to Sonic's moveset, and the constant stalactite hugging kills any flow the level might have had. Verticality is usually a good thing, but only because it allows for greater player expression when you can make clever use of 3-dimensional space to reach hidden areas or skip ahead. Here, the only thing the verticality does is make you redo boring-ass stalactite-hugging sections while fighting the shitty camera. Falling is made a potentially worse punishment than death because you can potentially fall below your last checkpoint. The geometry is also pretty janky here. The chances of you falling and losing progress and it not even being your fault are pretty considerable. Enemies in this level often have a freezing effect to their attacks, which naturally causes Sonic to stop in place. But it illustrates my frustration with this stage pretty well, and I feel like Icecap is out to waste my time. You could say I don't like this part of the level. Thankfully, if you remember, I said this stage is divided in 2 parts, and the second one is nothing like this. After going through an extremely disorientating cave area, Sonic notices an avalanche coming in his direction and jumps into a snowboard. The snowboarding is fun. It really does save the level. It's not like it's some amazingly deep mechanic or anything, you basically just hold forward and there's no challenge. But the music is really good and it feels nice to control. It's probably a good thing that it's baby shit easy, because if it was hard I'd probably get mad at it after the horrible platforming section and end up hating it. Not everything has to be challenging. This is a set piece section done right, and probably the most memorable in the game for me. This part when Eggman's robots show up and bomb the shit out of nothing really, is really cool. This is another part of the game that made me think that Kid Me would have probably been really fucking autistic about Sonic if I had this game back then. I'm sure I would have played the level again and again just for the snowboarding part. Leaving the stage, Red Sonic, also known as Knuckles, is just standing next to the lake being done. He just attacks Sonic like a retard after demanding the Chaos Emeralds. Naturally, this means a boss fight. This is the worst offender when it comes to nothing boss fights that shouldn't even be in the game. You spam A for like 7 seconds and it's over. I'm not kidding, the whole fight took me 9 seconds, including his death animation. I'll keep showing this fight in a loop for this paragraph just to drive the point home. I don't even know what Knuckles is supposed to do because it simply has no answer to Sonic's most basic attack. The whole fight is a matter of waiting for his invincibility to wear off so that you can immediately damage him again and repeating 3 times. You could at least use his invincibility frames to do something, but no. I have no idea if this is even in the game. Surely you would realize your boss fight is crap when simply mashing the main attack button will land it with 0 damage in a matter of seconds. Every time. The best part is, this fight happens 3 times across multiple characters. This is how many times I managed to play the clip of this fight while reading 1 paragraph of text. While keeping up with the theme of crappy boss fights, I had a 2-for-1 deal this time around. As soon as Knuckles' dumbass gets beaten up, Eggman shows up and naturally steals the emeralds to no one's shock. And then feeds them to the water thing, and now we have to fight it too. This fight is also really easy, but it's a lot worse than Knuckles' because instead of taking 0 time, it takes way too long. And it's mostly about waiting around for the glowing weak spot and then jumping on it. As long as you keep jumping around, Chaos will never hit you. The further you get into the fight, the longer it takes for him to show you his pulsating glands, but It's not like it gets any harder. The one time I got hit, it was because Sonic got stuck in the geometry of the lily pad, but even then all I had to do was grab one of the million rings lying around. If I had to say something positive about this fight, it would be that the arena looks pretty cool. I like the water effect especially. There's also Sonic suddenly revealing himself to be God's only begotten son by walking on water with no real explanation. To add insult to injury, like with the Knuckles fight, you're expected to do this 3 times throughout the game. It's exactly the same every time. Only it's even worse because this fight actually takes forever to finish. My recorded run took 1 minute and 49 seconds. That's almost 2 whole minutes of jumping around waiting for a pink ball to glow. I could have killed Knuckles 12 times in the time it took me to finish off Chaos once. That means that if you do your math across the entire game, you could have done Knuckles 36 times with the time you're wasting this water bitch. Quite a shit boss fight. Well, glad that's over. Anyway, Eggman summons a huge flying ship now, so obviously Sonic and Tails have to board it. Knuckles fucks off somewhere who gives a shit. This leads to even more boring crap filler gameplay, oh boy. This time around it's a plain minigame that sucks balls. I really hate this shit. It takes forever, you can't speed it up in any way, and the best part is, you have to do it 4 times! The plane has a weird lock-on mechanic that I swear to God I can't get to work half the time. Look, I know I'm shit at the game and probably retarded. I'm sure people know how this works. But the fact that people who have been playing this for 25 years can control this shitty plane doesn't mean the mechanics are good and intuitive. Depth perception here is also terrible. I can never tell where the shit I'm supposed to be dodging is. Not that it even matters, the section is easy as shit as expected. It's just so fucking boring. Not even the music is particularly good. And that's something that has saved quite a lot of this game so far. Fuck the stupid plane, stop wasting my fucking time. Sounds like Eggman agrees with me because he blows the shit out of it with a laser cannon, which causes Sonic and Tails to fall back into the city, making this whole section a complete waste of time. After all that, Tails is nowhere to be seen and Sonic meets Amy soon after. Amy's pretty cute, I like her. She's very girly, but still has a strong personality. She's not one to be pushed around. In fact, she's the one who pushes. She demands that Sonic acts as the bodyguard to some bird she has with her. Then some robot shows up and tries to kidnap her. Some stuff happens and she and Sonic end up at a theme park. Twinkle Park is a shitty but decently fun little car racing section followed by a short platforming section. In the first area, you're supposed to spam the homing attack to destroy some monkeys that are driving around in bumper cars and take one of them. Then a door opens revealing a space speedway that somehow fits inside a building in the middle of the city. Sonic is supposed to drive through to the end. If you don't have enough speed, you might not make a jump halfway across the trap, which happened to me somehow. There's not much to say about this part of the level, and it's pretty easy and I still managed to suck at it as usual. It's okay, it looks cool and it's kind of fun, inoffensive at worst. At the end of the racing course, Sonic gets in a roller coaster ride that takes him to the platforming part of the level. This is aesthetically one of the coolest levels in the game in my opinion. It's a castle-themed amusement park at night. It has some fun gimmicks like bowling alleys where Sonic can knock down pins and get some rings as a reward afterward. This place reminds me of Casinopolis if it were a more traditional platforming stage. Platforming across the castle roofs is great. Again, this sort of contextual level design helps a lot with immersion. Makes it feel like you're in a real place, and not just a video game level with floating platforms placed arbitrarily around, although there are still some of those. I like this level a lot for what little there actually is to it. The second half is probably the purest platforming level in the game, at least for Sonic's story. No autopilot and speedy set pieces needed, just fun momentum-based platforming in a cool little area with optional challenges and little incentives for going off the beaten path. I really wish we got an expanded castle area in place of the unremarkable bumper car track. Leaving the level, Sonic realizes he lost Amy. A key card falls from the sky without any context. Bringing it to a specific gate in Station Square opens up the next level. Speed Highway is probably the best level in the game, let's get that out of the way. It is the archetype to what people think of when they think of 3D Sonic levels. Broad, long, multi-layered speedways that allow for building up a lot of speed and using it to your advantage. I think this is where Sonic Adventure's physics engine really shines the most, allowing for great player expression through Sonic's momentum-based moveset. Despite its racetrack-like design, Speed Highway rarely takes control away from the player, and well-timed jumps or clever platforming can be used to skip portions of the level if you know what you're doing. As far as the visuals go, I'm a sucker for the nighttime city aesthetics, and I love the skybox here. This is a level where enemies start to become somewhat threatening. It's still really easy, but now you gotta pay attention to your height before attacking the helicopter enemies, as using a homing attack from the same height as they are will make Sonic fly headfirst into their propellers, damaging him. The police car enemies will pursue Sonic from hard-to-see angles and are also likely to score some hits. The big set piece here is a run on the wall of a huge building. This feels like the predecessor to what would eventually become the max speed sections in Sonic 06, but a lot less garbage. Basically, Sonic runs at full speed and you only control his jump and steering. It works here because it's pretty forgiving and quite short. In the end, it works as a cool and memorable little moment that adds a little spectacle. I don't think it's great necessarily, but I think it ultimately makes for a better experience. It serves as a good climax to the first half of the level and a transition to the second. Speaking of which, best of all running thing is the second area of the stage. It's a more open area where you're supposed to look for the end of the stage. It's good that this area now seems to take place in the morning, like we've been running around all night. This section is what I was talking about when I mentioned Station Square could have been more open and sandbox-like. It's not a huge area, but it's full of ramps and rooftops that are fun to run around and explore. It also feels like a real city. I feel like so much more could have been done with this area besides half a Sonic stage and a Knuckles stage. It's legitimately one of my favorite spots in the game. I wish they had followed this design philosophy more. Speed Highway really shows to me the potential of the game as a whole. If the entirety of Sonic Adventure was of this level of quality, I don't think it would be even slightly controversial. This stage really shows off the best this game has to offer. Its open multi-layered design is conducive to Sonic's moveset and allows for great player expression. Its music and atmosphere are top-notch. The first part shows what the faster, more open parts of a level should be like, while the second is a perfect smaller, more platforming and exploration-focused area to break the action. I'll say it again, Speed Highway is the best level in the game, and still, in the context of the narrative, it just served absolutely no purpose. We effectively just had two levels worth of worthless diversion as far as the story goes, but they were both good, so I'll forgive it. In any case, after fucking around with the burger shop dude for a while, we find Amy in the process of being kidnapped. She's abducted into Eggman's giant flying ship and we have to go after it now. There's a door in the cave that led to Icecap, which is now open, and it leads to this floating island, which has a giant Chaos Emerald in the middle of some ruins. This is the Master Emerald, I'm pretty sure, whatever that is. Again, I haven't played any of the Genesis games. In this area, Sonic gets another upgrade, which allows him to damage enemies with the Lightspeed Dash. You are supposed to use it to fucking murder a monkey in a cage, which somehow opens the path to the next level. This level is middle of the pack. I don't think it's particularly memorable. It's not that I hate it, but it has a few problems. Basically, we're back to the point where the jank really is affecting gameplay. I haven't really been mentioning it much because I feel like it's something you just have to learn to deal with in order to enjoy this game. And for the most part, it's been harmless. But here, the jank is affecting gameplay negatively. The collision here is just not very good, and it cost me a couple of deaths. The camera is also kind of bad. I do like the visuals though, feels like you are now entering the end game level. I think it's kind of hard to explain, maybe it's just me. Like it's a kind of a familiar theme, but the stakes are now getting higher. The fog effect is also cool. This is very much a Windy Valley type of level. The layout reminds me a lot of it. It's mostly small vertical islands of content and you navigate between them via level features that give you heights such as springs and the rocket. And it lets you get a good look at your surroundings, likely as an excuse to show off the game's technical prowesses. I find it interesting that while this style of gameplay feels like it would appeal the most to me, neither of these levels is among my favorites. They feel like the most tightly designed portions of the game, and yet little about these levels stands out to me. I think Red Mountain is the level from Sonic's story I'm most likely to forget. Like most levels in Sonic's story, Red Mountain is divided between two very distinct sections. Around the midpoint of the stage, Sonic will find a hatch that will open. Jumping into it will take you into a volcanic cavern area. This area is a bit more speed focused and features longer corridors and pipes for Sonic to run through. It also has platforms floating in lava with very questionable physics. My guess is they hadn't really figured out how to deal with shifting elevations, especially when it comes to angled surfaces, because this is pretty much the exact same weird interaction that cost me a hit back in Chaos's boss fight. Better not mess around with these platforms too much. This part of the level features quite a few sections in which the game expects you to chain together homing attacks on enemies or items to cross gaps. From what I remember of Sonic 06, by that point this had become a pretty common occurrence, but here it's slowly introduced and really becomes a central part of level design here at stage 7. I don't know, I find that kind of interesting. It really shows how Sonic Team were finding their way around designing a 3D game and utilizing this moveset they created for Sonic, as well as to what they expected the skill level of their players, many of whom I imagine were not used to 3D games at all, to be back then. The mechanic itself is not all that interesting. It boils down to mash and A as a lot of things in this game do, but it feels good and responsive and looks cool. Still on the subject of enemies, here you'll find these fireball things. You'll probably score a few hits on new players. They spawn fire rings around them with a huge radius, and you're supposed to jump over them and attack them from above. I like how these won't kill your momentum if you deal with them properly. They usually start to attack way before you get to them, so it's hard to be taken by surprise. They force you to react to them, but don't completely kill the flow of the stage, which is good. I guess I found more to like about this level than I expected in the end. I still think it's not one of the more memorable stages, but it's solid. And it might as well, because now that we're done with it, we have another fucking crap plane level. Please kill me. Whatever. We're finally on board of Eggman's huge dick size compensating airship. And stranded now because Tails' dumbass forgot to add landing gear to his stupid plane. Also, this cutscene has one of the most hilariously awkward lines in the game. I love it.
You're right, my friend, so here we go!
Skydeck is a bit weird. The layout is really confusing. There are no real landmarks to help with the orientation, so I'm constantly worrying I might be lost, but I never actually did get lost. Probably because of the huge arrows pointing where you're supposed to go. Apart from elegant design, but I guess it works. You're expected to use this wall hugging mechanic, which I think they lifted straight from Icecap, around these large pillars. It would be shit if it wasn't so easy to just jump off and skip these obstacles, so it kind of wraps around into being fun. You get to use your incredible game knowledge and skills to skip the boring crap parts, and I actually do believe this is intentional. It's pretty cool. It makes the player feel like they're outsmarting the game. Same with the monkey bar sections you can just jump through. The second part of the level takes place in a wider, more open section and has a gimmick where the wind will sometimes blow and push Sonic away from the ship. In this level, the little propeller enemies start having an electric effect that will cycle on and off. You'd think I'd enjoy the added complexity, but I kinda hate this. It's wasting my time. I actually really dislike cycle-based design, or anything that effectively devolves into waiting around gameplay. You can mostly ignore the fuckers, but I hate it out of principle. Fuck you, electric propeller guys. There are a shit ton of static cannon enemies in this part you can destroy the shit out of, which is pretty cool. But doesn't really serve much of a purpose, they're not really a threat. The area is extremely open for this game's standards, but the weird gimmick doesn't really make me feel like exploring. A little further ahead, you'll find this huge cannon enemy that serves as kind of a mini-boss of sorts, the only one in the game I can think of. You just use the conveniently placed rockets around the arena to shoot at the opening in front of it a few times, and it's done. The final area is a more open-ended area, sort of like the second part of Speed Highway, but with a gravity gimmick. The ship will turn around, changing the inclination of the level and causing barrels and sliding platforms to go in different directions. It's kind of janky as you might expect, but not as bad as I expected. This game, and a gravity gimmick, sounds like a recipe for disaster, but whatever's pretty painless. And that describes the level for me. Honestly, I feel like this is my least favorite level from Sonic's story. I don't really feel like replaying it for footage. I just think it's too long, and the gimmicks aren't fun. But it's not like I was raging at it or anything. I feel like this level was probably conceived as a tech showcase. The constantly changing lighting and fog effects must have been pretty impressive for the time. Same for the gravity thing. My favorite part is the first with the huggable pillars, the rest I simply tolerate. Sonic and Tails are now inside the ship, and the game tells you to go to the bridge. So here there's this brain dead puzzle to open the door where you have to spell Eggman. I'm starting to see a pattern here where every supposed genius in this game is a huge retard. Anyway, it leads to the Chow Garden! The Chow Garden is one of the most beloved features included in Sonic Adventure games. And I don't give a shit about the Chow Garden. Sorry, I'm not going to talk about it. I mean, I can understand being a 7-year-old and having nothing to play but Sonic Adventure and Shark Tale. So you spend 200 hours raising these little Japanese mascot characters for no real reason. But I had Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles and Shark Tale as a kid, so I cannot relate. And now that I'm an adult and have access to hundreds of games, I'd rather spend 200 hours clicking this tree for no reason. So yeah, we're leaving. What you're actually supposed to do is take the elevator in the middle of the room, which will take you back to the deck. I hope you liked Knuckles' boss fight, because Sonic now has to beat up this robot and it's the exact same fight. It took me a grand total of 14 seconds because I chose to run around a little at the start instead of just spamming the homing attack. There's really nothing to add. 3 homing attacks and he's dead. Never gets the chance to do anything. Amy tells Sonic the robot is her friend and asks them to stop fighting. The ship is falling apparently, so everyone fucks off while Sonic goes looking for Eggman. Following tradition, after a worthless boss fight that takes 10 seconds, we get another worthless boss fight that takes a little longer. Okay, this one is slightly better. Also, Big the retarded cat is here to annoy everyone with his existence. This fight consists of hitting some ice robot's chief dumbass Eggman throws around into chaos in order to freeze him, and then using the homing attack. It's nothing special, but the bar is so incredibly low this one feels good in comparison. Eggman escapes and Sonic fucking jumps off this flying ship with nothing to break his fall. Thankfully he's a cartoon character. Anyway, we're now at the coolest area in the game in my opinion. The jungle area is a confusing maze, but I really like it. It has a vibe to it. It's also really not as hard to navigate as it first seems. The visuals are just so cool. The Maya temple in the middle, the whole thing feels so mysterious, it really captures my imagination. Sonic appears right in front of where he's supposed to go, so we don't actually get to see it right now. But I love the view you get when you enter the area with the other characters. It makes the area look fuck huge even when it's really not. The maze part is also pretty easy to run over as most characters, which is fun. The next level is at the temple and you can go there right away. So this is Lost World. It's a temple level, which made me excited right away. I love these. I've always been into archaeology and history. I also played a lot of Crash Bandicoot as a child and I always found the temple levels fascinating. Needless to say, I love the setting. I love the atmosphere and the visuals. Unfortunately, I'm not the biggest fan of the level design here. The speedy parts of the level take place in narrow corridors with either nothing in them or annoying momentum-killing fire traps. There's really nothing to them. Then what you spend most of the duration of the level doing are janky, easy puzzles. The first of these puzzle rooms, if you can even call it that, is the snake room. You have to ride a stone snake in order to reach platforms and press buttons. When you're on top of it, it feels like the game will glitch out and send you flying at any second. It's been established that this game does not deal well with moving platforms, especially when inclination is involved. Nothing bad ultimately happened, but it looks really janky the whole way. Past the snake room, there's a really brief section on a balcony that looks really cool, and beyond that our second puzzle room. In this one you have to shine light into mirrors, really basic stuff. It's a bit disorientating how the camera will suddenly switch to first person as soon as Sonic gets near the mirror no matter his speed. I like the way the room looks, reminds me of the Dark Temple levels from Crash 1. There are some rotating platforms here and one of them kills me as I fully expected. Again, this game does not deal well with moving platforms. Following the dark room, there is another speed section that ends with Sonic running away from a boulder in a genius stroke of originality by Sonic Team. Nitpicking aside, I don't mind the cliche, but gameplay-wise this section amounts to simply holding forward for 15 seconds. The final part of the level has a gravity gimmick. Yeah, what could possibly go wrong? I feel like I'm wasting my breath even pointing this out because of how obvious it is, but this is really janky. Big surprise, right? At least there are no bottomless pits here to kill me when the mechanic inevitably breaks. Also, there's this fire enemy right on top of a checkpoint, and I can hear through time the echoes of someone at Sonic Team having a chuckle 27 years ago. Whatever, after a weird transition out of a loop-de-loop, the level ends. Sonic sees a mural at the temple and is transported to a thumbnail from a horror YouTube video. He sees a furry girl talking about how horrible it is and how she must stop it. It being unexplained as of now. The idea here is cool. Throughout the remaining stories, each character will have a vision of this girl and the player is expected to piece together the backstory. I gotta say I did not expect this level as restrained from a Sonic game. I figured it would be dumb exposition the whole way through, but to the end, Sonic never goes, "Wow! This kid and a girl's father sure is a fucking psycho lunatic, and it's all his fault K has destroyed the entire city, killing millions in the process! Whoa!" It's not all that deep or complex of a story, but it's the intention that counts, I guess. We're now back at the forest, and I do want to mention how great the skybox for the jungle at sunset looks. I love the skyboxes in this game just in general, they're so pretty. Low resolution and all. I'm a bit of a sucker for skyboxes even when they're not convincing at all. I don't really know why. I love this place, I feel at peace just standing here. The atmosphere really is great. It's a shame there isn't much to do here before heading into the next level, Final Egg, which is just around the corner. Inside this base area, all you have to do is solve another simple puzzle to open the door and head into the final level of Sonic's story. Final Egg is fine. I'd describe it as more of a platforming focused level than a speed focused level, and I'm fine with that. I believe Sonic's strength lies more in the momentum based platforming than in flashy speed sections you barely even control. There are some side areas and hidden goodies you can find if you're paying attention, and I like that. That being said, the stage takes place indoors, and the camera really doesn't do very well under these conditions, especially when Sonic is going fast. While I like the platforming, what I don't like is waiting around gameplay, and Final Egg is full of that. Also, the geometry is weird sometimes and caused me a bullshit death right after one of the boring waiting for platform sections. I legitimately have no idea how this happened. I can even see Sonic standing just fine doing his idle animation. The entire gauntlet of annoying time-wasting platforming is packed together halfway through the level, and dying to some janky bullshit right at the end was a bit annoying, honestly. It's not like it cost me a tremendous amount of time or anything, and even at this point the game is extremely easy, but if this was a harder game I would have probably raged at it. In the second half of the stage there are some huge rooms packed with enemies that pose no threat whatsoever. You can ignore them, or you can spend a few seconds spamming the homing attack at them, which is surprisingly therapeutic. My guess is they wanted to show off how many shitty enemies the Dreamcast could render at once, because there's no real point to this otherwise. It's a bit telling that I had so little to talk about this level. I kind of expected Sonic Team to pack some exciting gimmicks and set pieces for the final level of the most important campaign, but Final Egg is just kind of there. It has none of that. No running away from an explosion or an orca or down a huge building, it's just an okay level. I don't feel strongly about it one way or the other. So Sonic finds Eggman, and naturally there must be a final fight between the two. This is by far the hardest boss in the game out of every story, which is not to say much, but I really hated this one. When I replayed this game for recording purposes, I got him on my first try, but the first time through, I died like a billion times. I assume if you grew up with Sonic Adventure, you don't give this fight a second thought, but I'm sure it's only because you died to it a bunch of times when you were a kid and expected to be shit at video games. A lot of the fight is poorly telegraphed and doesn't really work as intended. After I had the entire fight memorized, I had no trouble, and I believe most Sonic fans today are just used to it like that. Eggman controls a flying mechanical snake thing, the Egg Viper. This fight reminds me a lot of N. Gin from Crash 2, fighting a mech from a floating set of platforms. It's a lot worse here, I'll tell you that. Also, Crash 2 came out a year before this, so I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but you could have at least made it good. The first 4 phases consist of running around waiting. As long as you're moving, you won't get hit. Then, after a while, Eggman will allow you to home an attack across the Viper's tail and hit him. Starting on phase 5, instead of being dumb and allowing you a free hit after running around mindlessly for a few seconds, Eggman will throw Beyblades at you. You need to jump on top of one and wait for it to go back to him, at which point you can hit him with a homing attack. Sounds simple, right? Well, this caused me basically every death I had my first time. Turns out you absolutely need to use the homing attack from the very top of your jump arc.
otherwise you just go right through the mech, and either fall to your death or lose a platform, which will just lead to your death anyway eventually. Even with that knowledge, the homing attack failed on me once during my recorded run. Once you hit him a further 3 times, the Egg Viper will catch fire and start flying around erratically. As a final fuck you, it'll crash on the platform Sonic is standing, so you need to jump into another platform at a precise time to actually beat the boss. I died twice to this bullshit my first playthrough, and I was legitimately really mad. It's really hard to judge exactly when he's going to hit, and I would be willing to bet most people would die here the first time around. Egg Viper really left a poor taste in my mouth when I first finished Sonic's story. Every boss fight in this game is complete shit, but all the others were at least easy, so I was more willing to ignore them and move on. But this one really rubbed me the wrong way. I just think it's a very poorly designed boss fight. Really bad note to end Sonic's story in. Now that I think about it, I feel like this really started falling off towards the end. It starts strong with Emerald Coast, gets really good around the middle with Speed Highway and Twinkle Park, loses steam with Lost World and Final Egg, and finally ends with the wet fart in the form of Egg Viper. So, as the credits roll, what did I think of Sonic's story? It's a lot better than I expected when I first decided to play this game. Out of the 10 action stages, I don't particularly hate any of them, and I quite like a few of them. The adventure fields are a cool addition, and I think they add a lot to the game. I value immersion a lot, and while a bit empty, they were not much of a hassle to traverse and make the world feel a lot more real. I love the visuals, not just for how impressive they would have been in 1998, I just think the art direction is really good. I think a lot of care went into defining the routes the player would take and how to best place props and build the levels so that there would always be something interesting to look at. Sonic feels pretty good to control, and I think his moveset here really brings out the best in these levels. It allows for a lot of freedom in how you approach challenges. The game was clearly built around him, and thanks to that I feel like Sonic's team managed to squeeze a lot of fun gameplay out of levels that are not even that big if you actually look at them as a whole. I feel like I'm right in my closing arguments, but there's actually a lot more game to cover. The remaining 5 characters offer different perspectives on the same story we just went through, and their campaigns are a lot shorter, but combined they make up for maybe 2/3 of the content here, so if you beat Sonic's story and quit, you'll be missing out on a lot of game. I'll say it now, and I'm sure most people are aware of it, but the quality of the remaining characters is inconsistent. We'll soon get into more detail, but I enjoyed playing as 2 of them. Thought a further 2 were fine and hated the final one. I don't really know how to deal with this transition, so let's just get started with Tails already. Tails' gimmick is that he can fly, and pretty fast too. Playing as him, you realize just how small these levels really are. Don't get me wrong, I'm not shitting on the game for that. I think Sonic made great use of these levels. They were clearly designed with his moveset in mind, so it's kinda cool that the game allows you to easily break some of the stages at this point when you've likely beat them all as Sonic already. Tails is easily my favorite character to play as. His flight could have been made irrelevant through balancing, and I really think most developers' first instinct would have been to heavily limit it. I'm glad they didn't. The flight is awesome. The downside is that Tails gets nothing like the homing attack and must instead bounce on enemies in order to inflict damage while airborne, which is not as easy or satisfying. On the ground, however, he gets a spin attack that is really fun to use. Later in the campaign, he even gets an upgrade for it, which allows him to keep spinning indefinitely. An unfortunate but inevitable side effect of the overpowered flying ability is that it makes every level extremely short. Most levels for the characters who aren't Sonic are already smaller compared to his. Usually they are comprised of only one of the sub-areas that make up a Sonic level. The fact that Tails gets to skip huge portions of these areas on top of that means that his levels usually end by the 2-minute mark. During my recorded playthrough, the action stage that took me the longest, which was Speed Highway, took me 2 minutes and 11 seconds to finish. And, as previously stated, I suck at the game. My total playtime for Tails' story, including cutscenes, was around 1 hour and 15 minutes. Out of these, the 6 action stages, or maybe 5.5 because I don't know if the game counts Sand Hill as an action stage, took a combined 9 minutes and 8 seconds. Meaning the vast majority of the time here was spent either fucking around in the adventure fields, watching cutscenes, fighting bosses, or playing the fucking plane minigame, goddammit! Yeah, it's back. Twice! And it's exactly the same as it was in Sonic's story. You also get to redo fantastic boss fights such as Knuckles, Chaos in the Pond, Gamma, Eggman trying to crash his stupid ship into you. Oh boy. There's an original fight here in the form of the Egg Walker, the final boss, which is really not that bad. The camera's kind of shit and it looks like it's trying to show me the best possible shot of Tails' asshole, but otherwise it's fine. You basically dodge a few shots, jump over a stump attack, and hit the glowing legs to bring it down so you can slap Eggman. Pretty basic, but not bad, especially, the track record when it comes to boss fights. During his flashback, Tails gets to explore this cool Maya-inspired city during its prime, and, well, there isn't anything really to do here beyond finding the spinny upgrade and watching a cutscene. I find this area to be neat. I could spend a while just fucking around here, especially with Tails' flight ability. As far as the action stages go, you get 3 platforming levels and 2 snow or sandboarding levels. I already mentioned I like the platforming in this story, and the snowboarding is the same as Sonic. Sandhill is also the only level in the game, I believe, that is exclusive to a character who is not Sonic. It's just a reskin of the snowboarding part of Icecap, but not as memorable. The music is just not as good, and it feels unfinished and tacked on. It's not bad, it's just weird that they even included it. The platforming levels are all repeats of levels we've already been to. Windy Valley, Casinopolis, Skydeck, and Speed Highway. Casinopolis takes place in the sewer area, and it's not all that interesting, but Windy Valley, Skydeck, and Speed Highway really get to shine with Tails' moveset. It's really fun trying to fly through these booster rings that are positioned across gaps and skip long running sections. With the exception of Sand Hill, every level in the story is a race, either against Sonic or Eggman, but it might as well not be because they never got anywhere close to overtaking me. And again, I suck. As far as the story goes, there's not much to add here. Tails' story is pretty much entirely contained within Sonic's, and the few scenes we get of him by himself mostly serve to further jerk off the blue rat.
Oh, Sonic, what would I be without you?
It ends with him happily claiming to have done it all by himself. So I guess it's supposed to be a coming-of-age story where Tails learns not to rely on Sonic for everything, but it falls a bit flat. The runtime is very short anyways, so I don't see how they could have done it much better, and it really doesn't matter much. But I'm here to talk about the game, so I'll talk about the game, goddammit. It fucking sucks! Okay, I'm kidding. I actually really enjoyed this campaign for what it is. I feel like if you treat these as little bite-sized side stories to complement the main Sonic story, they work mostly well. There isn't a whole lot of meat here, but what is here is fun. I like Tails. He is fun to play in. I enjoy watching him being a dumbass. Knuckles is up next. He has some of the more gimmicky gameplay in the game. I don't exactly hate it, but I don't look forward to playing it either. Let's talk about his moveset first. It basically comes down to gliding and punching shit. He has this shitty combo attack that stops him dead on his tracks, and if you press the attack button while he's running, he'll instead do a shitty spin attack that has no range and feels like it does nothing, even though I'm pretty sure it actually does deal damage. The animation is just really unsatisfying. I think they just copy and pasted the jump animation. The gliding is okay. He doesn't lose a lot of altitude very fast, which is something that would ruin the move by making it underpowered. Gliding is just one of those mechanics that aren't all that exciting, especially compared to flying, which we did have just last campaign. Knuckles just doesn't compare all that well to Tails, who's a lot more fun to play as. His speed is fine, he's obviously not as fast as Sonic, and he doesn't feel as fast as Tails either when you consider how much mobility Tails' flight grants him, but it's not as locked to go around as him. It doesn't bother me. The final main mechanic is his ability to climb walls, which is nice, and grants you a lot of freedom in how you approach levels, especially combined with the gliding. Speaking of which, I really like the level design. All of his levels are recycled from Sonic's story, usually with extra areas accessible, but his kit and the objectives you have to complete make for a completely different experience. What Knuckles has to do in all of his action stages is find 3 crystals, which are pieces of the Master Emerald, the purpose of which I'm still not entirely sure of, but whatever. He has a radar that beeps when you are close to one and gives a visual indicator that turns from blue to green to orange to red as you approach the thingy. All of his levels are very open, and I like the exploration aspect. The level design complements his moveset very well, and his gliding and wall climbing moves, which would by themselves be just okay, ultimately grant him a lot of versatility and make him pretty fun to play as. What I don't like is that this style of gameplay quickly devolves into aimlessly running around waiting for the radar to do your work for you. The locations of the pieces are randomized, and I wish they were hidden in more interesting, well thought out, static locations. Wandering around listening to beeps that find randomly scattered MacGuffins is just not all that exciting. As far as the individual levels go, I like the first 3 the most. Speed Highway, Casinopolis, and Red Mountain are all really cool. Speed Highway takes place in the final area of Sonic's level, which I already praised a lot. And it works great with Knuckles, with all of its little nooks and crannies and rooftops he can easily get to with his climbing. Casinopolis is just a cool area. I talked about how much I like the aesthetics, and this time around we get to see a lot more of the central area as we get access to its higher levels, where a lot of thematic props are. Navigating it feels great. It's more of a naturalistic approach to level design, at least for this game's standards. You're jumping around and gliding between pieces of decoration and architectural details. The entire place is really flashy and has some cool visual effects. I love this shitty 5th gen metal reflection effect. Knuckles has the best Casinopolis by a long shot, and it's my favorite level of this. I like Red Mountain here because it's very open and allows for Knuckles' gliding and climbing abilities to shine. It's a much more complex level than the previous 2 with more enemies and hazards, but it's not too hard. The bigger problem is that its size makes the radar less efficient, which leads to a lot of flying around waiting for it to work. Skydeck has this annoying gimmick where you can control the ship's inclination with a lever, and that opens up a few nooks where the pieces of the emerald might be hidden. It also has a lot of the cannon enemies, which are pretty annoying when you're not just zooming past them like you are with Sonic. Knuckles also has boss fights. Around the halfway point we have to go through the same sequence of fights we did as Sonic and Tails, those being Knuckles and Chaos. Obviously, since we're Knuckles, we fight Sonic instead. It's the same shit, only instead of spamming the homing attack you do the shitty punch combo 3 times and win in about 10 seconds. Chaos is also exactly the same. Knuckles' final boss is the big Chaos boss we fought on the ship in Sonic's story, only now there are some holes in the arena. You still throw ice thingies at him and then jump on him to deal damage. He eventually does a weird attack where he turns into a plant looking thing and sends out vines or something. But I don't even know what exactly it does because if you keep circling around him, it'll never hit you. Knuckles does get one exclusive boss fight and somehow it's probably the best in the game. Chaos 2 is actually competently designed. Who would have thought? It's not amazing or anything, but it's pretty good. He'll start the fight turning into a blob of water and jumping around the arena creating shockwaves. You're supposed to glide into him to shove him towards the wall and force him back to his normal form. Then he'll start walking around and actually block you if you try to damage him. You have to bait him into an attack, dodge, and then hit him. He also has an attack where he floods the room and forces you to keep airtime for as long as possible in order to avoid damage, and one where he turns into a bunch of bubbles you have to pop in order to force him back to his normal form. It's actually pretty fun. Keeping up with the good news, no more plain levels. Those are only in Sonic and Tails' campaigns, thank fucking god. There's not much to say about what happens here story-wise. Knuckles apparently lives on a floating island, and it falls after Chaos shows up and breaks the Master Emerald, which kept it floating, I think. He runs around collecting the pieces, has a cryptic flashback like everybody else, rebuilds the emerald and goes, "I won!" Then he talks about how he doesn't even know why the fuck he's there, which I can relate to, and the credits roll. He doesn't even get an attempt at a character arc from the writers. This story really is a huge nothing burger. Nothing happens. Anyway, we might as well move on. Knuckles is okay. I don't hate playing as him. He's average. He's fine. Good times, mediocre times. Nothing spectacular. Next up is Amy. Amy has the shortest story in the game. That makes me a bit sad because there's another character who definitely deserves that honor a lot more. I actually enjoyed my time with Amy. First of all, she's cute as fuck. She just warms my cold heart. I expected one of those annoying archetypal, stingy, girl in love with a guy who doesn't give a shit characters with no self-awareness, but I actually found her endearing. She's very girly, she never acts insecure or tsundere, and she can take care of herself for the most part. Though she does end up getting kidnapped, she pretty much escapes by herself later on. Her main trait is liking Sonic, but she feels capable and in control. I love the scene where she's being pursued by a killer robot and then she screams and you think she's about to get clobbered, and then she just goes, "Oh my god, cute couples getting free!" and drags Sonic into an amusement park while not giving a single fuck about the fucking robot. She's neither a girl boss nor a useless blow-up doll princess like Peach. At least that's what I think of her in this game specifically. I don't know how she's portrayed later on in the series. Anyway, I'm not nearly neurodivergent enough to make psychological analysis of Sonic characters, so I'll stop here. Suffice to say, I think she's cute. Amy is the most basic character in the game gameplay-wise. She's pretty slow and her gameplay revolves around her hammer. When she's walking or standing, she'll swing it around and completely kill her momentum. when she's running, and you can tell that by her animation changing into a Naruto run. Pressing the attack button will make her swing the hammer down overhead, which launches her into the air. This is really satisfying to do and is basically what makes Amy fun to play. Her slow speed is a problem in traversing the adventure field sections, but her action stages are quite small and benefit from the change of pace, especially since we've already been through them as other characters. She feels more like a traditional platforming character than anyone else in Sonic Adventure. Her gimmick is that throughout her levels she's ambushed and pursued by the robot Zero, who's trying to kidnap her. He really doesn't pose much of a threat at all. You can't kill him, but you can hit him to stun him for a while, and that's really easy to do. He'll sometimes break through a wall to try to surprise you. You can make an overly dramatic video targeting Zoomers about how Amy's story is secretly survival horror. Amy's adventure broke me. Amy's 3 action stages are Twinkle Park, Hot Shelter, and Final Egg. Hot Shelter is the highlight of her campaign. There are a few puzzles in it which are actually fun. They have this crank mechanic here. You have to spin your analog stick to get doors to open. And I guess it's supposed to create tension because you're being chased by Zero, but it's really not a problem in any way, since you do it so fast and Zero is so fucking useless. What I find interesting is that in one of these you have to follow some instructions that tell you to turn the crank left once and right 3 times. But since you've been told in the first crank that you have to turn it left to open the door, you'll likely simply turn it left a few times, realize it's doing nothing, and try turning it right, which solves the puzzle accidentally. Still, Hot Shelter feels very organically designed. It really sells the idea that you're breaking into a secret base, messing with the controls, entering vents, dealing with security. You end up in the bathroom at one point, really makes the place feel lived in. Amy's Hot Shelter is not what I think when I think of a Sonic game level, but it's a really good traditional platforming level. Probably one of the most polished and fun in the entire game. Twinkle Park is the first level for Amy, and I talked about how much I liked it in Sonic's story. I think Amy kind of fixes the issues I had with it by allowing you to explore the place at a slower pace. It also adds this trippy mirror house area that's visually impressive and very memorable. You have to look for holes in the mirror in order to avoid them. I thought that was cool. Final Egg is fine, but kind of suffers from coming after Hot Shelter, which was so good. The level starts in a corridor with a bunch of laser walls and vertical obstacles you can jump over with the hammer running attack, and it feels pretty good. Also, downward ramps make Amy feel a lot more fun to play as they help her gain momentum, and it's very noticeable. I wish they made more use of them. There's this part where you get to an elevator room and the game tells you to hide while you wait for it, but I just stood there and nothing happened. There's also this room with a bunch of doors, only one of which leads anywhere. You have no way to know which one it is, and I'm pretty sure it's randomized, which I don't appreciate. It's just a waste of time. It's a decent level, but my least favorite from Amy. After that, we're off to finish the story. Amy has to fight Zero as her final and only boss. No Knuckles and Chaos this time around, thank God. It's an okay fight. You knock him into an electric fence and hit his weak spot. He'll jump and send shockwaves for you to jump over, and in his final phase he'll sit in the middle of the arena and spin his extended arms around, and you have to jump over them as well. It's fine. Definitely one of the better ones, along with Egg Walker and Chaos too. Amy's story is about her finding this bird and trying to protect it from Zero, who was sent by Eggman to try to capture it. She ends up getting caught together with the bird and sent to the egg carrier, where she meets up with another of Eggman's robots, Gamma, who she befriends and convinces to let her go. She then helps the bird find his family, which she does at the egg carrier crash site, where she also defeats Zero. The story ends with her watching as the birds fly away and reminiscing about how she should be more independent from Sonic, which confuses me because I felt like she already was. I mean, Sonic didn't really help her at all. She did everything by herself. He went after her when she was kidnapped, sure, but in the end, she freed herself, she found the birds, and she defeated Zero. Well, whatever. I like Amy's adventure, as you might have guessed. I'd say it's my third favorite in this game after Sonic and Tails and before Knuckles. The biggest problem is that it's too short, and that means what is here is pretty good if it leaves me wishing for more. She doesn't have a single stage I don't like, and one of my favorite stages in the entire game. It's annoying how Amy only has 3 stages when Big the retarded fucking cat has 4. Speaking of which, I'll try to be quick about this one. I really don't give enough of a shit. Big the cat is a crap character. I wonder what the instructions were to the voice actor. Just try to sound fucking retarded. Froggy. It sounds like I'm trying to offend someone here, but that's what he actually sounds like. It baffles me that anyone thought this would be anything but annoying. Anyway, Big lives in the jungle with this gay lava frog, which gets possessed by Chaos's tail or something and runs away. He has to fish for him 4 times. That's his campaign. Look, I know a lot of people cream themselves over fishing minigames, and I've never even seen these people defend Big the Cat's story in Sonic Adventure. I don't really care for fishing. I don't really hate it, I just don't care. And here I'm forced to go through about an hour of listening to this annoying character no one gives a shit about for 4 instances of a shitty fishing minigame that I'm not even entirely sure how it works. You try to throw the line in the path of the frog, which is easier said than done considering depth perception is really weird. Hope that it catches the frog's attention and hold A to reel it in. Letting go when the meter at the bottom right of the screen goes red. I think. When you have your lure out and try to adjust its position, it feels completely random. Moving the analog stick will sometimes do nothing and sometimes send the lure flying in the opposite direction you held, so you better just get the position right from the start. If you're off, just try again, don't bother trying to adjust the position of the lure. In Icecap, the hole you have to fish in is minuscule, and it's really hard to get the lure to go into it. Big will just fucking launch it against the ice again and again, even when the radical lines up perfectly. Big's campaign has 4 levels: Twinkle Park, Icecap, Emerald Coast, and Hot Shelter. They are all the same. I won't bother you with the details because there aren't any. It's kind of funny how if you only played Big's campaign, you have no idea what's going on with the plot, much like Big himself really. That's some deep meta-narrative shit. Wow. His campaign ends with the Chaos 6 boss fight aboard the 8 carrier. Only you don't actually fight it, you just line up the fishing rod radical with the frog that's inside him, throw the line once, and it's over. Anyway, this is a waste of time. Big adds nothing to the plot and actively detracts from my enjoyment of the game. He's annoying and his gameplay sucks. There are 2 positives to Big's adventure. First is that his theme song is pretty good, although they play it so often that I started to get sick of it. The second is that it's short, so you won't have to suffer through it for too long. In short, fuck this character and fuck whoever's idea was it to put an hour-long ad for Sega bass fishing in the middle of Sonic Adventure. Maybe they thought your dad would be more inclined to buy you a Dreamcast with this game if you got to play fishing? Yeah, Big is bottom tier, to no one's surprise. Next up is Gamma. Gamma's a robot, and his gameplay consists of shooting shit. He plays well enough, but his levels aren't very good for the most part, mostly because he'll destroy everything in his path with minimal effort. His main attack consists of locking onto enemies, which you achieve by holding the attack button, and shooting them all at once. His levels have timers which you can increase by shooting more shit. They're all very generous anyway, so that basically never comes into play. Gamma has 5 action stages: Final Egg, Emerald Coast, Windy Valley, Red Mountain, and Hot Shelter. Out of these, the first 2 are so extremely short and easy they might as well not even be there. Final Egg specifically feels like it could have been a tutorial for Gamma's mechanics. You walk through a corridor with basically no obstacles and shoot a Sonic doll at the end. It literally took me 30 seconds. Emerald Coast took me a whole 15 seconds more than that. Windy Valley and Red Mountain are a little less brain dead. You get a hover ability for Gamma at this point, and while the levels are still extremely short, they at least feature some obstacles in platforming that turn them into a little more than a short stroll like the first 2. They're actually kind of fun, I'll say that, but the amount of actual gameplay in Gamma's adventure is so small it's kind of laughable. Starting with these, every level in Gamma's story ends with a boss fight with one of Gamma's robot brothers. You fight a total of 3 of these fights that are exactly the same, including one at the very start of the campaign. You lock on, shoot, wait for the iframes to go away, which the game is nice enough to signal with a beep from Gamma's gun, and then you repeat until they're dead. You also fight Sonic in the egg carrier, as Sonic did fight with Gamma in his story. It's the same fight I just described. Stun lock for 10 seconds, win, whatever. Hot Shelter is the final level, and I'm starting to see a pattern here. It's good. Why is Hot Shelter the best level of every campaign it shows up in? Even in Big Shitty Story, it's the more tolerable one. It's by far the longest action stage in Gamma's story. In fact, seeing as it took me about 6 minutes to go through, it was longer than every other Gamma level combined. The time limit here actually means something. I finished with 26 seconds remaining on the clock, and I almost ran out of time right before dying to an enemy at one point. I actually died. There's some actual challenge here. The level also ends in a boss fight that's original and, while not exactly good, more involved than the trash fights we had so far in this campaign. You have to lock onto some tubes on this large static robot while intercepting missiles and running on a disc that's moving around it. With Hot Shelter done, all that's left is to beat the final boss, Beta, who's the first robot we fought at the very beginning of the campaign. The fight is good, by far the best from Gamma. Beta will block shots so that you can't just stun lock him like every other fight. You must bait an attack in which he quickly charges in your direction and shoot him in the back immediately as he stops. The window is actually pretty tight. He also launches homing missiles you have to intercept, and can even charge at you while his missiles are still out. From the third instance of damage he takes onwards, he has a quite large explosion attack as well, and in the final phase he'll spam that attack and cover most of the arena. You can tell some effort went into designing this fight, and I'm glad that was the case. I should talk a little about the story. The reason why Gamma was going around blowing up his fellow robots is that Eggman would pit them against one another in order to select the strongest and then treat them as disposable whenever they didn't live up to his expectations. Gamma witnesses one of his brothers being dismantled at the egg carrier, and after being treated nicely by Amy, he rewrites his programming and decides to free the others from Eggman's control by, well, destroying them. After defeating Beta for the second time at the end of the story, Gamma is shot by him and is irreparably damaged. As Beta explodes, it is revealed that he was being powered by a bird, one of the ones from Amy's story. Gamma soon explodes as well, freeing his own bird, also a member of the same family from Amy's story. They fly away together and the credits roll. Yeah, from what I can tell, this is a fan favorite as far as the story goes. And yeah, I see why. It's trying to tell a darker, more contemplative story with deeper themes, and it does it well for what it is. People love Gamma, and I don't think it's for Final Egg or Emerald Coast. Gamma's story is well contained, and easily one of the ones that works the best. While I feel there's too little gameplay here, what is here is not bad. I guess what I'm trying to say is it doesn't detract. Gamma's adventure is one of the more memorable ones in the game, but it's not for the game part, and that's okay. It's not Big the Cat, and that's what matters in the end. And now, we're done with every regular story in the game, and all that's left is the final story, so let's get going with that. Super Sonic's story starts with Tails telling Sonic to follow him and then promptly disappearing, which leads me to fuck around wandering aimlessly for a few minutes. Turns out you're supposed to find Eggman and Knuckles passed out in a corner in the Chaos Emerald altar. I actually immediately went there and missed them because they put them way out of the way. This happened in both of my playthroughs. No, I'm not proud of it. Yes, I'm still going to blame the game. Eggman was still trying to use what's left of Chaos to do his dumb villain thing, so he took him to the altar, but Chaos wasn't having any of it. He takes the emeralds, which power him up, and that's bad. Sonic sees the final flashback vision. Here we see the echidna girl, Tikal, trying to stop her psycho dad from taking the emeralds and using them for military purposes. Dad of the Year over here does not give a single shit and orders his guards to fucking charge her. They also kick the shit out of the little mascot child things. Turns out, Chaos is a guardian of the Chaos Emeralds, spawned to protect them from Tikal's shitty father. The game has been building up to this throughout all 6 stories, and that's kinda cool. Chaos still needs 1 emerald in order to reach full power. So Sonic and Tails try to get to the priceless mystic artifact that the dumbass Fox thought was a good idea to first use as an airplane engine and then to just leave in the middle of the fucking jungle. But they're too late, and Chaos reaches his final form. The city gets fucking nuked by Chaos and turned into a flooded ruin because Tails was too stupid to think that maybe he should treat the ancient magic artifact with a little more care. Millions are dead, billions even, and it's all Tails' fault. Chaos is a big water dinosaur now. It looks cool. Eggman shows up only to be immediately blown the fuck out by Chaos. Tikal shows up one last time and explains she and Chaos have been sealed inside the emerald for all that time. Sonic has to beat him up and seal him again or he'll destroy the world. All of Sonic's friends and Big the Cat show up and gather the emeralds that were scattered after Chaos used them. I feel like there was a bit of a wasted opportunity here to have a final gameplay sequence for each of them. I know Sonic 06 does something like that in its final story. It even feels a bit weird that they don't do that with all that setup. Like, they show that the emeralds were scattered in a cutscene, and they immediately show everyone bringing them to Sonic. My guess is that they were going to do something like that and ran out of time or something. Even Gamma shows up in the form of the pink bird that's following Amy. It's kinda cute. Tails has pulls an explanation about how the emeralds have bad and good power and Chaos only used the bad power, so Sonic should be able to use the good and wholesome and cuddly power of the emeralds to turn Super Saiyan and beat Chaos, which, of course, works. The final boss fight begins immediately after Sonic's transformation. Perfect Chaos is nothing like the other bosses in the game. Well, I guess he is in the sense that he is kind of shit. But I mean the way you fight him. The way you damage him is by reaching him with enough speed. His attacks don't deal damage, instead they slow you down. You begin the fight with 50 rings, and they are constantly drained. You can also collect more rings as you make your way through the ruined city towards the boss. If you reach Chaos with not enough speed, you'll be spit out and have to try again. You won't die, but the rings you wasted are gone. It's really not very good gameplay wise, but it's not insultingly bad like most other fights in this game. The setting, however, is super cool. The final showdown with a giant monster in a ruined city. It's hard not to get hyped. This is a spectacle boss fight. It's supposed to make you feel good at the end of the game, and I appreciate that. I don't think every game has to end with a huge test of skill. Sometimes a victory lap is just fine. The problem is, while every element to make it work was here, they fucked up. And that's because of one simple problem: the music. So when you start the fight, this great rock song, Open Your Heart, which is pretty much the main theme of the game, is playing. It's awesome, energetic, it works great here. One could say it's fucking Kino. And then you hit Chaos 3 times and get to the second phase. And just as the song is beginning to pick up pace, it's replaced by the most generic, threatening boss music I've ever heard. Why? Out of all the bafflingly stupid decisions in this game, and there are quite a few, this one pisses me off the most, and it's so fucking simple. You could have ended the game with a bang, a memorable fight with a banger soundtrack, but instead, you chose to kill all excitement with some crappy, forgettable background music that the player has already heard a bunch of times throughout the game. And Phase 2 is just more of the same. You build up momentum by avoiding obstacles and ram Sonic's head against a big water dinosaur. Only it's more annoying now. Like, I wish they would have kept Open Your Heart for the entire fight, but even if they had just swapped the music around, made the generic boss theme play first, and then had Open Your Heart for Phase 2, it would have been fine. It's such a small thing, but that's what makes it so annoying. Like a fly buzzing in your ear. Sonic Adventure had its ups and downs, but they were so close to sticking the landing at least, and they fumbled it in the most retarded way possible. I don't exactly think Perfect Chaos is a bad ending for the game. I still think it's memorable. The setting is really cool, but goddamn, it could have been so much better with just one little change. Whatever. Sonic defeats Chaos, peace returns to the land, everyone in the city is still fucking dead as fuck. At least you get to actually listen to Open Your Heart during the credits. So, I don't really know what impression this video gave off with regards to my overall opinion of this game. Was it too positive, too negative? I feel like I need to spell it out because it's more complicated than that. I like the game. I can see a lot of good things in it. It's very flawed. It's very janky, but even through all of that, there was always something there that kept me going. I didn't force myself to finish the game for the sake of making a video. I mean, I would have, but I actually wanted to finish it. I can tell there is something special here. I am not the target audience here. There is a huge gap, both in terms of age and historical context, between me and who Sonic Adventure was made for. This was never going to be my new favorite game. The best case scenario for Sonic Adventure, as a game for me to enjoy, was for it to be entertaining enough not to make me want to bang my head against the wall, and for it to teach me about the time it came from, for it to help me understand and empathize with the people who were there at the right time and place and in the right context to enjoy it as it was meant to be enjoyed, so that I could see how these people helped shape the way video games are made and discussed today. Most of all, I feel like I have to remember this is a kid's game. A kid's game I have no emotional attachment to. If you played this game as a child, it was not simply one game drifting in the middle of an endless backlog you pick up one afternoon on a whim because you hear so much about it and feel you should probably get to it so you can have a formed opinion of it. You probably didn't have much else to play back then. You probably played the shit out of it, replayed it constantly, tried to go for ranks and extra missions, thought about it all the time, made up stories with your imagination and got immersed in a multimedia franchise. This experience simply cannot be recreated. I cannot see Sonic Adventure with the same eyes some 8-year-old Autismo in 2001 did, and I'm not going to blame the game for this. I hate the idea of games aging. I don't believe they do. You age, I age, everyone ages, but a video game today plays exactly the same as it did when it was brand new. And if it was fun back then, it can be fun today. The only requirement for that is that you put yourself in the right mindset. While I could not exactly do that for Sonic Adventure to the point of loving it as much as I know so many people do, I can see what made it special regardless. I no longer believe this is a piece of shit mess of a poorly made game shat out with little regard for the sake of a quick buck. I think this game is quite remarkable, really. It's technically extremely impressive for its time, and for all of the design decisions that seem absolutely retarded in retrospect, the game still manages to ultimately be fun even today, almost 27 years later. Hindsight is 2020, and in 1998 this game was absolutely sailing uncharted waters. If anything, I think Sonic Adventure feels ahead of its time. Not only that, it does something a lot of games fail to do. It feels sincere, it feels passionate. I'm sorry for using such a meaningless cop-out term to describe it, but if any game deserves this label, I think Sonic Adventure might just be it. Sonic Adventure has soul. I feel like children especially are pretty good at sniffing out insincerity, and the fact that this game managed to capture the imagination of so many is by itself a testament to it. I did not grow up with Sonic Adventure, but I can tell that if I did, I'd probably be with the rest of you degenerates on the wrong side of DeviantArt today. I see in Sonic Adventure the potential that have captured me in the same way that a franchise like Crash Bandicoot did back in the day. So in the end, I am not in love with this game, but I certainly learned to respect it. It's not a game I'll be replaying often, but if I do for some reason end up playing it again, I can see myself having a good time. Well, I guess this is it. I kind of like the game. You know what this means, right? Yeah. I have to make a Sonic LC now. So here it is. Sityo the Hedgehog. He is super strong and has a machine gun for an arm because he lost his arm fighting Dr. Eggman because Dr. Eggman used his Zero Tensei to bring back Uchiha Madara to try to kill him. But it failed, but he made Sityo lose his arm. So that's why. And he can fly and he can shoot laser beams and Kamehameha and he is stronger than Sonic. And he can go Super Saiyan like Sonic and Shadow. Only they can only go to Super Saiyan 1 and he can go to Super Saiyan 3. No, 5. He's also Sonic's best friend and second in command even though he is stronger because he wants Sonic to feel good about himself. He's also cocking Sonic with Amy Rose, but he cannot let Sonic find out that he has sex with his girlfriend because he would off himself and join the forces of evil with Shadow, which is why he keeps it secret from Sonic because it would cause a civil war. He can also destroy 3 universes with a single Kamehameha. I hope you like my OC, please do not steal. It is copyrighted because I wrote a C in a circle in the corner. So yeah, that's it. I'll probably play Sonic Adventure 2 next, so maybe look forward to that if you want.